Most beginners think that great photos come from buying the newest camera, but honestly, that's the fastest way to waste your money in 2026. What you actually need, my friend, is the right setup, and most people somehow get this part completely wrong. Now, I spent the last 10 years shooting and reviewing cameras, and if I had to start photography from zero today, then these are the setups I'd buy. Part number 1, the best tip to keep your cost low. So if you want to go as budget as possible, then my biggest recommendation to you is to buy cameras off the second-hand market. I think it says itself why that is good, but basically they are much cheaper. Also, you're able to find older cameras that are not sold anymore in the stores. Really good if you want to save money. Plus, keep in mind that although the urge is there to always buy the newest, latest and greatest, you don't really have to. What was once a good camera is still a good camera today. Also, another good thing to keep in mind when you're out shopping for your second-hand camera is to keep an eye on the shutter count. You don't want it to be too high, all right? Other than that, just pick something that you think looks good and is in good condition and you're good to go. Which brings us to the next part, the really budget setup. Now, the way that I've set up this video is that I have 3 different budget setups for you. Really budget, pretty budget, and budget. And we start, of course, with a really budget. By the way, I made a free 33-day email series to help you become a better photo editor. It's 1 short tip a day and it's totally free. You can find it in the description down below. All right, part number 2, the really budget setup. So if you're on a really tight budget, the camera that I suggest that you can check out is the Sony a6 5100. Now, this is pretty old, but you can get it on the second-hand market for relatively good price. At the moment, I've seen it float around on the internet for around $200 to $300 used for just the house. Also, one thing that you will notice me recommending, I don't know where you are in your photography journey, but I recommend that you pick up a camera with interchangeable lenses. That means that you have a camera like this here, where you can change lenses, because it just gives you so much more flexibility. It allows you to get so many more different types of looks. And one thing that I always tell beginners to do is that I much rather buy a cheaper camera and more expensive lens than the other way around. The lens is very important. So we were at the Sony a5100. Now, that camera has a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor. It has an all-right hybrid autofocus. You can photograph 6 frames per second. The ISO goes from 100 to 25,600. You can film full HD up to 60 frames per second, and you get a flip up screen similar to what you get on the Sony a6300 that looks like this. Then you need a lens. And since you're on a really tight budget, then what I would recommend here is a used Sony kit lens. Now, there is a consensus on the internet that kit lenses suck. They definitely don't suck. You can take good photos with them. They're just not as good as other lenses. But if you're just starting out, totally fine, my friend. Now, in my opinion, this setup could be a little bit too budget. And if you have a bit more money, then you can get something that is a bit better. And that moves us to the next part, part number 2, the pretty budget setup. I think I named this part. Now here, I'm of course talking about the good old Sony a6000. Now this camera also has a 24 megapixel APS-C sensor. You can now photograph 11 frames per second. And a big difference now that you don't get on the a6 5100, but you get on the a6 6000. These Sony names are crazy, but a6000 is a viewfinder. A viewfinder is basically this here. So you can look through the camera when you take photos. Now you get the screen, so technically you don't need it, but in my opinion, when you're taking photos, it is really nice. And there is something about just lining up your photos and really finding the focus like this here. I love it. So I would definitely go for a viewfinder if I can. Now, this is not the best viewfinder that you can find on the market, but hey, we're talking about budget setups here, you know? What you also get over the really budget setup is you now get a hot shoe, so you can put a flash or a microphone or whatever. And there is also slightly better ergonomic and just slightly more enjoyable to hold the camera. Now, when it comes to the realm of videography, if you want to film a little bit too, then the a6000 can also film in full HD, the maximum up to 60 frames per second. So you're still not getting that 4K quality, but for photography, it's pretty fine, especially if you're just starting out. Also, one thing that you might be noticing that I'm recommending Sony cameras. Now, I know Sony cameras inside out. That's what I've been using for the last 9 years, but I also like them a lot. And one thing that is so nice about them is the E-mount. So that is a mount that they have to connect with the lenses. In the Sony ecosystem, you have a ton of lenses to choose from. Both the Sony lenses themselves, which tend to be a little bit more expensive, but you also got an incredible big market of third-party lenses. Sigma is one that I use a lot, but you have cheaper Chinese lenses as well that are still pretty good, which is pretty nice. We do like the options. Now, at the time of the recording, I've seen the a6000 float around on the second-hand market on the internet for around $300 to $400. If you want it with the kit lens as well, I've seen it go from $350 to $450, which is pretty nice in the realm of photography where everything is like incredibly expensive. So you're getting a pretty good deal if you want to go and get that camera as well. Now this moves us to the next part of the video, the budget setup. So my friend, if you have just a little bit more money, do you say between your fingers? That's what you say in Iceland. Between your hands, in your hands, you go like this, like Italians, you know? Hey, what you doing? Why are you not liking my video? I have no idea what I'm doing here. Like the video, please. Anyway, if you just have a little bit more of that good old cash, the greenery, the goody, my recommendation would be the good old trusted Sony a6400. This is a camera that I've hammered on. I've used it so much, and to this date, some of my favorite photos were captured on this little camera. And what I like about the Sony APS-C cameras is that one, you can get them for a really fair price, plus you have the lenses that I just talked about, and they're so small. Look, they fit in my palm easily. But under the hood, they pack so much power. Now this camera has a 24.2 megapixel APS-C sensor. Now, also if you do like filming and creating videos, then now you can get 4K footage up to 30 frames per second, and you can get 120 frames per second in full HD. That is fantastic, especially for this size and the price. The autofocus tool on this thing is really solid. We're talking a 425-point autofocus with real-time eye autofocus and tracking. Now, another good upgrade tool that I loved a lot, especially because I was using the a6300 a lot before I bought the a6400, it could only flip the screen up like this. So if I wanted to film myself, I couldn't really see myself. So I had to guess where I was. But with the a6400, you do get a fully flip-up screen like this. So you can see yourself while you're vlogging, which is really nice because you can compose yourself and it makes this whole experience a lot easier. By the way, all of the photos that I'm throwing up in these videos are shot with these older Sony APS-C cameras, and they're all edited using my preset pack as a base. This is what I use to edit all of my photos. It not only speeds up my workflow tremendously, but it also ensures a consistent tone and look throughout all of my photos that I absolutely love. You can find all of my presets in the description down below, but better yet, I bundled together all of my digital products. I'm talking my LUTs, all of my presets, templates, overlays, film grains, and everything into one master bundle that you can get at the moment for a really good price. I'm not sure for how long I will run this price, so grab it while you can. It's also down in the description down below. Anyway, one thing that I forgot to mention about the good old a6400 is that this camera can also photograph in 11 frames per second, if I remember correctly. Also, you might be sitting here and wondering yourself, but what about the price? Now, this camera is, I think, double the price from the previous version, at least the a6 5100. I've seen it on the secondhand market on the internet from around $600 to $750, something like that. And if you pair it with the kit lens, you're getting a pretty decent setup for a pretty decent price. But if you want to get a better lens than the kit lens, then what I would recommend is the Sigma 18 to 50mm f2.8. That lens is phenomenal. It's super small, but still incredibly sharp throughout the focal lengths. And I just think it's a fantastic lens. It's a lot better than the kit lens. And if you can afford it, then that's really great. And remember what I told you before, rather buy a cheaper camera and a more expensive lens than the other way around. You're gonna see a much more different to your image quality by having a better lens. Because here's the thing, my friend, your camera isn't what makes your photos look super professional, even on a really tight budget. You see, it's the lens. And the thing is, most beginners, they buy the wrong one when they're first starting out. So before you go out and spend a single extra dollars, then watch this video next, where I break down the best first lenses for Sony cameras in 2026.